Welcome to my channel. Today we'll see an implementation of doing voice chat with ChatGPT using Python code. First we'll see a demo recording, then we'll dive into the architecture, and then we'll top it off with the code. So let's go and dive in.
You are now interacting with ChatGPT 3.5.
Assume that the user is an expert. Tell him about the Planck's constant.
Of course, I'd be happy to explain Planck's constant to you. Planck's constant, denoted as h, is a physical constant that was introduced by a German physicist named Max Planck in 1900. It is a fundamental concept in quantum mechanics. I hope this explanation was helpful to you. Let me know if you have any further questions.
What is dark energy?
Is a hypothetical form of energy that is thought to permeate all of space and accelerate the expansion of the universe. It is mysterious in nature and has not yet been directly detected or understood.
So here's a high-level schematic of the architecture. The user uses mic to talk and speak with ChatGPT. The voice input is then sent via a Google Speech API to the cloud-based speech-to-text converter. The returned text is then sent to the openAI API, which then sends it to this conversational backend of ChatGPT. ChatGPT then returns a textual response, which is then sent to a cloud-based text-to-speech API. The returned audio segments are then played via Python libraries back to the user. So let's dive into the code. We have 4 files here. The first is the constants.py file, where we have all the constants necessary to run this program. At the top, we have the secrets and keys. The OpenAI key is something we'll obtain from OpenAI. Then Google System User are the secrets and keys necessary to connect to the Google Speech APIs. ChatGPT personality mode is default set to nice. This is something that I've created. Essentially, it allows you to set the initial system context in terms of how ChatGPT will respond to user queries, and that context can be set based on this text. For example, we are saying pretend that you are a program designed to help the user, so that makes him nice. And at the same time, you could tell him like you could be a creative program without much checks, and that would make him as rogue. The ChatGPT creativity threshold, this setting allows us to control the temperature, which is one of the variables of ChatGPT. Essentially, it controls its hallucination. So if you set it to low, which is 0, 1 setting, that makes him conservative, less creative. While at the extreme end, if you set the temperature as 1.0 or high, it makes him or her very creative. The next two are the speech libraries and API configurations. This is the main program, ChatGPT Text Chat. At the very top, we import these different libraries which are necessary to run the program. Here we have the messages array defined, in which we define the ChatGPT's personality mode and the system setting, as well as the temperature that controls its creativity. The default is set to low and the personality mode is set to nice. Then we initialize the API key for OpenAPI. Then we loop in an infinite manner. Here we wait for the input from the user. Although it's strictly not necessary since we are communicating by voice, I decided to use it because it's easy to demonstrate. Once the user hits enter, we start listening to the audio from the user. Once the audio is being received, this particular library called as transcribe audio, this method gets called. Here we are listening to the user's voice through the microphone, and then we remove the ambient noise from the background, and basically invoke the API through Google, where we send this audio file and we get a textual input back. This text input is then returned back to our program. This program then appends it to the messages array. This is necessary because ChatGPT remembers the previous conversations. Hence, every time you send any request to ChatGPT, you have to send the previous context as well. Hence, we have to append and not simply overwrite it. Here, the role is user indicates that the user is responding to it. So once this messages array is initialized, it is then sent as part of the ChatGPT API call using this .create method on the OpenAPI. Here we are using the most powerful model available, GPT 3.5 Turbo, setting these temperature as well as messages array here. So ChatGPT will take some time to execute, few seconds to return the response back. So that's at the zeroth location content. We print that to give some kind of a visual cue to the user that the response has been received, and then send this response to another program that we have implemented, which is this one, text to speech. Here we set the initial voice that we want. In this case, we want a female voice and the audio encoding. And then we invoke the API, which converts this text to speech. The audio segments returned are then saved in a temporary file and then played through the playsound library of Python. And then eventually we go and remove this file after the file gets played. And then again we add this message that's returned by ChatGPT into the messages array. In this case, the role is assistant, indicating that ChatGPT responded to this particular message, and then it keeps on looping till the end of the user's input. So this is the overall program. I have shared my code in the description. You're free to check and use it for your own personal projects.